So box, 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 box.
Hi, my name is Rochelle and you're watching or listening to Box F1 Pod. Welcome to Imola. Super excited to discuss today's episode. We saw the end of Oscar's winning streak. Not that I'm like excited about that, but I am excited to have seen Max win in like such a spectacular way. There was a lot of strategy stuff going on, lots of stuff on track, lots of stuff off track. There was a field trip to the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, which was, I feel like that might be unprecedented, honestly. But anyway, we're going to discuss all of that. And I'm very excited to say, if you are watching, we are cooking today. So I'm going to be making pasta aglio e olio. I'm sure that was fabulous. Which is basically just olive oil and garlic pasta. It is not necessarily traditional to Emilia Romagna, but I will be putting some Parmesan cheese on top for the Emilia Romagna region. So don't come at me, but it is Italian. So that's the theme here today. I am very upset to say that I was not able to come into this to be able to say pizza, pasta, piastri. Oh, I can after quali. Quali went fine. But in the meantime, I'm going to be making a drink to accompany our, what are we making? Pasta. And while we're prepping it, it's going to be a blood orange spritz featuring this very cute bottle of Italian sparkling wine that my friends brought me yesterday as a housewarming gift, but specifically they said for the Italian Grand Prix. So who am I to ignore specific instructions? So with that, let's kick things off with the digital warm-up. Lap 1, F1 news. While I chat about the F1 news, I'm going to start making my drink, which starts with some normally, I would be using Campari or Aperol. I do not have either yet, so instead I'm going to be making this a little less Italian and using triple sec. But the vibe's still there. It's just a little less bitters energy. So I'm going to put that in. And the first thing that was huge in the F1 world is that the FIA is reconsidering their stance on swearing. Well, not really, but they have decided to reduce the base maximum penalty from 10,000 euros to 5,000 euros, which is so generous of them. Basically, the stews will also have the ability to suspend a penalty if it's a first-time offense for either driver or team. George, as you know, the head of one of the GPDA's directors, was asked if they're grateful to the FIA for changing this. And George is like, this was stupid to begin with, so I don't know why we would be thanking them for basically doing what they shouldn't have done to begin with. Like, it still exists, which I liked from George. You know, I might not be having this today. 1, 2, 3, to Max. To Max. Don't put me on top of an F1 podium. I guess they do that. I don't know why I did that. All right. Next up in F1 news, the FIA found no issue with McLaren's... Oh, whoa. I guess this is red sparkling wine. It's going to make the blood orange part look super bizarre, but okay. That really threw me off. Let's say... This is for the tears from Kimi fans that he DNF'd in his home race. And the blood orange is for the tears of the Tifosi for Ferrari. I have no idea what this is going to taste like. I was really, really thrown off by it being red. So the FIA found no issues with McLaren's car, which I guess there were suspicions raised by the Red Bull camp, supposedly. Toto did make a statement saying that he thinks it's silly to be questioning cheating every time someone is doing well, as if he hasn't on multiple occasions lost his shit at Red Bull, and being like, you are cheating, I have it printed out right here. I guess he wasn't accusing them of cheating at that time, but all right, well, cheers to whatever this is. Oh, that's really good. Okay, Yum. Tastes much better than I'm sure Kimi or the Tifosi felt today, but you know. Also in F1 news, Carlos Sainz Sr. is apparently considering running for FIA president. There is, of course, a lot of conversation about conflict of interest, but weirdly, from what I understand, far less than there was about Susie Wolff. Well, no, the conversation is still there. The one thing is I'm not sure if Susie Wolff was actually considering running for FIA president, whereas Carlos Sainz Sr. has fully acknowledged that he is considering running for it. A lot of people are saying there's clearly a conflict of interest. Whether that will impact his job, I don't know. Like I said, I also thought Susie Wolff, I don't know. This feels very conflicty. However, Carlos is like, I'm a 30-year-old man who's driving and I have other management. He just won't be part of my management team anymore. George himself said he doesn't think it'll be a conflict of interest. And, you know, he's very morally right. And he thinks it'll be great to have Carlos Sainz Sr., who understands F1 in the capacity that he does and is like a world champion. I also think everyone's really sick of Mohammed. All right, moving on to the biggest news, which we have in theory already talked about. Jack Doohan and Franco Colapinto swapping. Now, I added this into the last episode and I discussed it quite thoroughly, my opinions on it, which are, to sum up, I think Jack has been handed a really shit end of the stick, but I don't hold, Franco responsible for that. That was obviously the management. We also have found out that bombshell information that Flavio is Jack Doohan's manager, which I continue to think is psychotic and he needs to find new management immediately. But the other crazy thing that happened at that time was that Ollie Oakes had resigned the day before they announced the swap. And there was a lot of rumors at the time, this is suspicious timing, blah, 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 blah. And then they released a statement saying that the original statement had said that he was stepping away for family matters. And they released a subsequent statement saying that despite all the speculation, he is in fact stepping away for family matters. And then there was a quote from Flavio Briatore that there was no malintents or something. And then they had attached to his statement a statement from Ollie Oakes where he was like, Flavio's like a father to me. This is a family matter, blah, blah, blah. And everyone's like, yeah, right. And then the next day it started to come out that the brother of Ollie Oakes, now the former Alpine team boss, William Oakes, who is 31 and, by the way, born December 30th, 1993. He is one day older than me. He was arrested. Spoiler alert. He is the director of the high-tech Grand Prix team, which competes in F2 and F3. He was arrested and charged with transferring criminal property, which is fascinating. And he was found with a large stack of money or something like that, which, first of all, insane. Second of all, I want to almost a little bit apologize to Flavio because I was like, there's no way there's a family matter. And clearly there's a family matter. However, I don't want to apologize that much because I think it's convenient that there's a family matter. And I still think it stands that Ollie was much more on Jack's side and defending him, and that his departure, I don't think Jack would be gone if he was still there, is my guess. And so this was a convenient turn of events for Flavio. Convenient, to get the team to where he wants it to be. And I still think it's bullshit that Ollie sees Flavio Briatore as a father. By the way, I don't remember if I talked about it last week, so I'm just mentioning it anyway, but there was a full-on, the announcement of Franco joining the team took the form of this extended mini video of a truck driving through the roads and arriving at this apartment, assuming in Argentina, and Frank opens the door in a bathrobe, And they hand him a box. And in the box is his new helmet, Alpine helmet. And he's like, whoa. And that was how they announced it. But that came out after, obviously, we knew what happened. All right, lap 2, off-track F1. So some leftover Miami content was that on the grid walk, Brundle had talked to Jack Whitehall, who said that he had just had espresso martinis with James Vowles. And I was like, I physically cannot imagine A, James Vowles having espresso martinis, or B, hanging out with Jack Whitehall. So, but Williams released the footage, and it was like in the hospitality. I don't know, when he told that story, I was sort of envisioning like they met up at a bar in London and had like a drink together, rather than like in the hospitality where James is wearing his Williams button up. But it's still funny to me. I feel like potentially Jack Whitehall is like James Vowles, but like if James Vowles had been funny. Also, more onboards from the Lego race were released, and there was one clip of Kimi picking up the phone in the middle of the Lego race. He's like, hello? And Lewis like clocks him answering the phone, and he just starts cackling and pointing and like filming a video and like being like, you look like you're on a business call, which he kind of did. It was comical that he picked up the phone. Also, another video got released where the drivers' rankings were released, I guess, in terms of fans. And I think Carlos's ranking was 90 and Lewis's was 89. And it was so funny to see Williams's reaction to that. Carlos was like, wow, I'm ranked higher than the GOAT. And Alex was like, he replaces you, then you rank higher than him. And he was like cackling, just letting his complete, I said cackle a lot. They were like more giggle than cackle, but you know. Alex just let all his intrusive thoughts win. The woman interviewing was like, okay. And Carlos is just looking at him, like shaking his head, but grinning from ear to ear. Clearly found it fucking hilarious, but was trying to save face on camera. All right, so then we had a new driver in the paddock, and his name is Franz Herrmann. Franz Herrmann earlier this week did a testing session in a GT3 car at Nürburgring, the Nordschleife or something like that, which is like part of the Nürburgring, which is notoriously one of the most dangerous and most complicated circuits to race in the world. It used to be part of the F1 calendar, but like people were just dying too much, so they took it off. What do you know? When Franz Herrmann showed up to test, who was in the car but Max Verstappen, under the pseudonym Franz Herrmann, because I know a lot of people online were like, the car was sponsored by Verstappen.com or Verstappen.com, his racing team. And everyone's like, I don't know why he used a pseudonym. His name is splashed all over the car. And it's like, it's not like he showed up in a disguise. Like, it's not like he was hiding who he was. I think they were just trying to keep it off of the, because the drivers who are testing are released in advance and they didn't want it to get out that he was participating, not once he was actually there. Otherwise, the track would have probably been swarmed by people. But anyway, during free practice, the F1 graphics changed Max's name to Franz Herrmann, which was rather funny. Love a funny graphics change. Last year, if you recall, there was that hilarious exchange between Leclerc and Oscar on Twitter about how Oscar was saying that it was when Oscar was on his spree of saying every race was his home race. And then when it got to Monaco, Charles was like, I can adopt you. And then they changed Oscar's name on the board to Oscar Piastri Leclerc. That was funny. All right, we had several birthdays during our time away. Ollie Bearman turned 20. No longer a teenager. I believe that makes... Wait, how old is Isaac? Isaac is 20, I think. Yeah, so that makes Kimi the only teenager. And he'll be the only teenager for the next, well, unless they get new drivers that are young. but he'll be a teenager for a while yet because he's just a baby. At least he won't be in school for much longer. And then, not really F1 birthday, but F1 adjacent, Martin Garrix, the DJ, turned 29, and Lando attended his party. I guess that means that Lando won the Martin Garrix F1 BFF competition because that man was friends with like the entire grid for a while. And then in other news, Carlos became the new face of men expert for L'Oreal. Honestly, I thought he already was doing like stuff with L'Oreal, but perhaps that was just like a campaign. And now they've like made him like an official ambassador. Anyway, he, as part of L'Oreal's team, went to Cannes, where he walked the carpet with Eva Longoria, which somehow feels so random, but at the same time, weirdly worked. Like, it was funny to see them together, and like they look good together, and he brought her flowers, and it showed them getting ready in the same room. It was cool. I really love this for him, and I also love whoever is in charge of his like L'Oreal makeover, because we all know Carlos always looked good, but now the haircut is serving the like face, whatever men's expert is. Sign me up. There's a lot of L'Oreal ambassadors, so I'm really curious who else Carlos will be paired with and what else he's going to be doing with them. I never really thought I thought L'Oreal, I don't know, I know L'Oreal is like a famous makeup brand. I see their stuff all the time, especially with Eva Longoria, but like in my head, there's still like the little kids shampoo. But they're not. They're more than that, obviously. And I think Kendall Jenner's an ambassador for them. I don't know. They have a lot of ambassadors and they do a lot of shit. So I'm very excited to see where Carlos goes next. All right, moving on. Lap 3 trackside in Imola. So Toto is not on track. I believe he's at a graduation. I want to say it's for his other son, because I don't know what Jack would be graduating from, but it might be Jack's graduation. Remember last week we found out Toto has another son, or I did. Some of you may have known that. I personally did not. So that was crazy. But anyway, he's away. And so Mercedes released a video of him like video chatting with the drivers. And it was Kimi and George in an office, and Toto's on the big screen. And he's like, I just want to give you both like some words of encouragement, because it's going to be the first time I'm not at the track, but I'm going to be completely offline, so I won't know what's going on. Kimi, like, you'll be good. Don't worry. Like, I know it's scary, but you know what you're doing, et cetera, et cetera. And George goes, what about me? Where are my words of wisdom? And Toto's like, you are a 27-year-old man. Please tell me how that compares to an 18-year-old's first experience at his home Grand Prix. You're fine. You've experienced it all. And George was like, okay. But it didn't make me laugh. Also, you could give him some words of encouragement, Toto. Toto does love Kimi. And the parallels that people keep drawing between Toto, Kimi, Spider-Man, and Iron Man are hilarious. I also think it's funny that, what's his name? Tom Holland has now been compared. This is like the third driver he's being compared to on the grid. To be fair, people used to say that he looked like Lando / Oscar, but this is the first time his character is being compared. But I do think it's funny that he's just like a continuous point of conversation for F1. And that he's only actually best friends with Lewis. Not best friends, but you know. Anyway, so moving on. So talking about Kimi. Kimi's like my favorite character now. He's so adorable to me. Everything he does just makes me laugh. There was a video that came out last week of him going back to school and showing up in like his Mercedes sports car. And all the kids are surrounding him. And I swear, I don't know, that move would be so douchey if anyone else did it. But I feel like Kimi doing it, it's just endearing. No one like is like, oh my God, there he goes again. But like, also imagine what kind of romance book that could be. Formula One driver, still in school, high school romance, girl thinks he's cocky and full of it. And then they meet and she realizes he's just shy and just like super talented and has to do this, but really he just like is a math nerd. And they fall in love. That'd be such a cute little high school romance book. Anyway, my favorite thing though is that after that, on Thursday, Kimi brought his whole class to the Grand Prix. They all had little passes. It was like 15 or 20 of them. They were all dressed in Mercedes gear. He took them around track. There were videos of them like playing soccer outside of the motor home. And it was just like, they were in Mercedes just infiltrated by a bunch of kids. It was so funny to me. And there was a video of Valtteri saying hi to some of them. Valtteri has never looked so old, honestly. It made George look old. Like, he's a decade older than these kids, and it showed. It was so funny. But my favorite part was the joke that people were making online that Kimi's biggest accomplishment today is not being the youngest to lead a lap or the youngest to be pole sitter. His biggest accomplishment so far is getting a group of Italians to wear Ferrari's rival merchandise. The only thing I wasn't sure is it seems like they only visited on Thursday. Like, I hope he got them tickets to the actual race and they didn't, like, it's still fun to visit and everything. That is a great field trip. He's not wrong. There was like a whole bus of them also, by the way. They all took a school bus to the track. I know they live super close. He's from Bologna, which is nearby. But I really hope they got to actually attend the race. And I did see a TikTok, I'll link it, from one of the actual classmates. The girls seemed to adore him. They were all taking pictures with him. He was showing his helmet to his classmates. It was so cute. It was honestly one of the most wholesome things I've ever seen. I love... If this wasn't an insanely dangerous, difficult sport, I'd be like, let's get more kids into F1. It's cute. Like it's some sort of PBS show. Anyway, I can't talk about Italy without talking about, I know we've got an actual Italian in here now, but Leclerc still takes top ranking, I think. The Tifosi, I just love seeing how much they love him there. No matter what, Charles is Jesus. He is their little Jesus. There was a clip of him, like him in Monaco and him in Italy. I just love that he's just won over 2 nations, like single-handedly, with just a look of his face. Oh my God, I saw the craziest meme. It was like, Charles visited an orphanage, quote, "It was just heartbreaking to look into those sad, helpless eyes," said one of the children. I just feel like the entire world is rooting for little Charles and things just keep not going his way. Everything just keeps going tits up for him. No matter what. Tits up is bad, right? Because that's what I meant. If tits up is good, then JK. Anyway, there was like I saw a video where all of the stands were chanting, "Ole, ole, 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 Leclerc, Leclerc." Italians love a chant. Also, Europe in general loves a chant. Our chants are so dumb in comparison, honestly. I know ole, ole, ole is not like crazy inventive, but it's more fun than like 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we appreciate? Charles. No one wants that. All right. There was an incredible picture of Kiki, Pierre's girlfriend, walking with their dog Simba, and Alex, Charles's girlfriend, walking with Leo through the paddock. And again, Alex's outfit's 10 out of 10. Clearly Italian influence. She looked perfect. Every look is different, but every look is phenomenal. She just like has it. She looks great. And I love that she started to like dress thematically to the track. And she's doing it in a very respectful way, like commemorating each culture. It's nice. But they're walking through the paddock and there's this clip of like Simba trying to get ahead of Leo, and then Leo stays ahead. And this clip was played for Charles, and he was just giggling. He looked so proud. And then he was like, "Well, I guess I'm winning somewhere." Oh man, just like everything he said, he just like has given up. He's like officially given up. Zero hope left in this man. They were like, so what does this mean for Monaco? And he was like, no, and just like walked away. Like everything he says just like breaks my heart. And remember last year when he won Monza and he won Monaco and it was like such a big thing. Anyway, another thing I wanted to say about Italy quickly is that Carlos acknowledged that they welcomed him back with like open arms and like are really happy to see him. And that just warms my heart because I do think they all loved him a lot. They obviously are very happy to have like an icon like Lewis there. But you know, Carlos seemed to really appreciate the culture. I'm sure, I mean, Lewis does too. That's not what I'm trying to say. But like Carlos spoke the language. Carlos knew the anthem. Like all of these things that just like made him seem part of the Tifosi family. So it's good to see him still being appreciated. And then last, but certainly not least, I do want to just mention this like quick cameo we got, which was in the middle of the race. The camera panned to Daniil Kvyat, aka the former Red Bull driver who was replaced by Max Verstappen, who used to date Kelly Piquet, who is the father of Penelope. He was there. I mean, obviously he's not going to be in the Red Bull garage. That's a little crazy, but he was in the Williams garage. And I think that's wild. Like, why was he there? I mean, he was there to watch the F1, but like he was with some girl. I don't know who she was. Girlfriend, I guess. P and Kelly were obviously not there. I don't know what their situation is. I know Max has always been like really respectful. Like she has a father, blah, blah, blah. But like, I don't know. He was there with Williams and it was a jump scare for everyone. Everyone's like, is he back? Is he not? Anyway, that concludes the digital warm-up. On to analysis. Okay, so on to analysis. Quickly before we get into actual race, I wanted to talk about Yannick Sinner, the tennis player who just won the Italian Open. And in his speech, he thanked his brother because he was in Imola watching F1 instead. I giggled. Okay, anyway. So quali, Yuki crashed terribly, like terribly. His car was like just smushed completely together like a can. And he was okay, thank God. Everyone asked if he was okay. Max in the post-quali conference was like, I asked if he was okay. They said yes. And then I saw the replay and I'm like, is he okay? But he was okay. He popped out. Thank God for the halo. But additionally, Franco crashed, and it was also a pretty bad crash. But since that obviously impacted their races, Yuki failed to set a qualifying time, so he was racing under the stew's discretion. And Franco was penalized 1 point for failing to follow race director's instruction for some reason, but he also crashed. Charles's post-quali media pen interviews were, oh, that might be too much. Whatever. Were a bit depressing. He basically was like, he gets asked how hard he's going to fight. And he was like, well, I'm going to fight very, very hard. But at the moment, I can't do miracles, which broke my heart. And then like questions like this also make me really question the nature of like sports journalism because the questions are so stupid. I'm just like, how are you why are you asking this? How do you think he feels? He just qualified terribly. Like Ferrari did absolutely terribly. You think he's jumping for joy? Like, what do you think he's feeling? And then this one made me laugh. Carlos basically got told that he had qualified Ferrari, both Ferraris, and he grinned so wide. And Natalie was like, try not to smile too much. And he was like, I mean, of course, this makes me very happy, blah, 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 but you know, but doesn't mean anything, something along those lines, but it was so funny. He just started smiling from ear to ear. In the post-quali press conference, George just starts eating a banana and Oscar's like in the middle of answering a question when he pulls out this banana and he's so distracted, he like cannot focus. He was like, could you please just like keep your banana away from me? And George just like leans in super close with the banana. I don't know why he was eating a banana in the middle of the quali conference. Anyway, so the starting grid is Oscar Piastri, followed by Max, George, Lando Alonso, Carlos, Alex, Stroll, Isaac, and Pierre. That's the top 10. By the way, Pierre hit a bunny in practice. I mean, he definitely killed the bunny, which is horrible. Anyway, then in P11 is Charles, followed by Lewis, yikes for Ferrari, followed by Kimi, Gabriel, Liam, Colapinto, Nico, Esteban, Ollie, and Yuki last. All right, so the start, by the way, there's this man called Davide Valacelli. I don't know, he's an Italian commentator, and he gets brought in for the Italian races, and he's so funny to me. He's like my literal favorite. He talked to Alex, and he was like, you know, we really like your aggression with your radio this year. You're so aggressive. It's so nice to watch. And Alex like, well, I hope you like me when I'm not aggressive. And he's like, we like you all the time. I don't know. He was so funny. All of his commentary was just 10 out of 10. He like loves F1, his everything, his whole aura. Bring him in for more. Why does he just have to be in Italy? He was about the start. So basically, Oscar obviously is in the lead. They take off. Max doesn't have the best start, but somehow by turn 1, he pulls off the most it's like the move he's been trying to do all season and not succeeding. And here he executed it so flawlessly. The way he placed despite the start, he was able to look around, see where everyone was, positioned his car in a way that blocked George on the outside line, but also left enough of a car's width so there was no issues, but Lando still couldn't necessarily get through. And then just like the touch of the race pedal, and it was just phenomenal. It was so good to watch. I mean, I haven't watched F1 this long, but a lot of people were like, this was the best start I've ever seen. Like the best move, turn one start, like incredible. And it's what we all know he's been capable of. And it's like, it has the same aggression he's had in the past, but it was executed flawlessly in the way we knew he could do it. And it was just 10 out of 10. It was amazing. And that honestly won him the whole race. Yes, Red Bull in general did really good. They had great strategy. They didn't falter once. They stuck by their guns. Like all of that was great. But without that one move and like following through on it, we would have never been where we were today. And that's just down to Max being incredible. Yes, they got lucky with the virtual safety car. He happened to be right next to the pits. He got to pit. All that stuff. All of this stuff could have gone awry, but it didn't. And it's because he's just so good at his job. He's just such a good driver. And we all know his car is not as good. I know a lot of people argue otherwise, but we all know his car is not as good as he is a driver. His car is mediocre at best. Second, probably third on the grid. No, probably second. I don't know. I guess it depends, but like it's definitely not first. McLaren is above and beyond any other car on the grid. And for him to continue to challenge both McLarens every week is so impressive. Because if it was just down to like the car, he would not be second and third. But Max's strategy sort of leads us into Max's performance leads us into McLaren's strategy, which was, it kind of feels like Max executing that turn really threw McLaren through a loop. And they were like, huh? Like, what do you mean he's just like ahead? Oscar said himself he wasn't really expecting it. McLaren definitely wasn't expecting it because they usually aren't expecting things. And they ended up hitting Oscar way too early and like threw them off their game. And just everything just went from bad to worse for Oscar. And all things considered, luck was not on his side. Max was better than him. His tires were just always dying. And somehow he still finished third. Is super, super impressive. Honestly, if there was like 2 more laps, I don't think he would have survived. But there weren't 2 more laps. So he did, in fact, survive. And finished on the podium, which is an incredible result. I think after 3 wins in a row, it kind of doesn't feel that great. But regardless, he had a great race. Literally 0 mistakes. Everything that went wrong was not in his control. McLaren did make a mistake with his strategy, pitting him so early. But, I mean, It's not really their fault. At the very end, Oscar's tires were shit. And everyone was basically saying, are they gonna race? Are they not gonna race? There was a safety car, a very, very long safety car, and Lando got on the radio and was like, I'm not telling you that I should be let ahead. However, I am faster and his tires are clearly dying, so do with that what you will, or something along those lines. And that was kind of annoying to me because I'm like, Lando, just fight. Just fight unless they tell you otherwise. And Oscar was genuinely dead because when Lando attempted to overtake him, Oscar didn't really put up a fight. It's not like he just like moved to the side, but like he didn't really fight him. I don't think he had it in him to fight him. But like everyone was saying like Lando needs to make this overtake to show that he's serious about the championship. I don't think this overtake demonstrated that he's serious about the championship at all. Oscar basically let him through. Oscar's tires were shit. It didn't demonstrate any of the aggression or the confidence that we wanted to see from Lando. He just overtook his teammate when his teammate was like not doing great. So I can't say I find it particularly reassuring about how he will continue to contribute to this championship fight, but who knows. Red Bull strategy, again, 10 out of 10, stuck to their guns, follow through, no mistakes, not from Max, not from the team, just like, it was like Red Bull of the old days, last year. It was like Red Bull last year. And also Yuki had an incredible race to go from P20 to points. I think he finished P10. Amazing work. And his stint on the hard tire helped inform what Max should do. So he also helped his teammate. So honestly, this was a great race for Yuki. Despite like that horrific crash yesterday, he persevered, thrived, and helped Red Bull finish the way they did. So good for him. Other successes, while Ferrari qualified super poorly, that was basically the only thing that got in their way today. They had great strategy. They actually had pace, especially considering where Lewis ended up placing. Charles also had a great race, but unfortunately got screwed by the virtual safety car and then had that issue with Alex, which I'll get to in 2 seconds. But like the craziest part was when Charles had a great strategy idea. And he pitched it. He wanted to switch tires, and they basically like, we have no tires left for you. And it's just like so annoying to hear. Like, what do you mean you didn't consider like saving the tires for this moment? Like, how do you not have any tires left? And so basically he had no choice but to continue on with the strategy with no strategy really. He just had to try and execute. Okay. Hello. I don't know if you can see the steam. So like they didn't have the tires to help Charles even remotely get ahead. And then let's talk about Williams, then we'll talk about Alex and Charles. But would just like to point out, Williams isn't being lucky. They're actually succeeding on pace. And in the post-race show, Alex went on and they brought that up to him. He's like, oh, I know. Like, we're actually doing good. And it was kind of wholesome. Like, I think Carlos got a little screwed with luck and the safety cars, but like, Alex is on a fucking roll, man. But the big issue with Alex and Charles towards the end was when Charles basically had to give his spot back to Alex because of how he overtook him, which he was furious about. He basically tried a Max move, you know, like where Max tries to, he lunged while Alex was ahead. And the team made him give him the spot back before the before the stews could decide whether he should give a spot back or whether there would be nothing to pursue. And because they did that, they just didn't pursue anything. But Charles was like furious. He was like, so this is what happens when people race. You just have to give the spot back. I think in hindsight, when he like looks back at the tapes, he'll see that he had to give the spot back. Like there was actually no choice for him. But anyway, while this was all going on, Lewis ended up overtaking both Charles and Alex, like basically in one go, which put him into P4, which is great for Lewis. I just like, it's a shame that they qualified so poorly, like both of them, because who knows what could have been otherwise. Other failures that happened, and I would kind of consider Charles being depressed as fuck kind of a failure for Ferrari. Like they did execute fine. It just once again, luck and certain things just were not on Charles' side. But other failures, poor Aston Martins who qualified so well and were on such a high were just so slow. They were so slow today. And poor Fernando was like, I'm just the unluckiest driver in the world. I think that title is up for debate with a certain Charles Leclerc. But yeah, Fernando is also objectively an unlucky person. Also, Ollie almost retired twice. And I'm going to be honest, I actually thought he did retire. He did not. It like happened twice where he like pulled over and he like went into the pits, and I thought he was done for. I literally thought he did not finish the race until the end when I realized he was still driving. And also then Kimi pulls over into the grass, and he ended up having a really long safety car because of the way his car was parked, and they had to get the truck out and like all this stuff. It was a very long safety car. But like, it's so sad that this is how his home race ended. But like, what did we expect from a home race? Name a home race that we've seen go well besides last year for Charles Leclerc for the first and last probably time. Up until then, it's like failures. Like this year alone, we've had Oscar's horrible race in Australia. We had Yuki's horrible race in Japan. Like, it's not a good thing. Home races. It does not go well for anyone. And what's extra sad is this is the end of the contract for Imola, and we don't know if it's going to be on the calendar next year. However, the F1 president, Stefano Domenicali, has said that they can't feasibly have 2 Italian races on the calendar next year, which is weird because we have 3 American races we have to suffer through. So I don't understand why we wouldn't have 2 races in Italy where like everyone lives, breathes, and exists on motorsport. But okay, sure, Stefan, you know better than me. But I just feel kind of bad for him because this was his first and last chance. He brought his class on a field trip here. It was a whole thing. Post-race, Lando's post-race radio was really grumpy. Everyone was kind of grumpy. Oscar wasn't grumpy. He was just like clearly like not happy, which is weird. It's a very thin line between happy and not happy, but I have a feeling he was unhappy. It was such a thrill to see Max like jump up on his team. Like, it's kind of nice to see him earn it again, as opposed to winning every single one where it becomes just kind of complacent. Not that he didn't earn them when he did win, but like, you know what I mean, like where he had to fight for it. And when this like exceptional flawless move that no one can even argue is like chef's kiss. The podium. Okay, so they were playing the Dutch national anthem, and I start hearing the shouting, and immediately I panic. I'm like, oh my God, are they booing him right now? Why are they booing him? He hasn't won in ages. And then I realize over the Dutch national anthem, the entire crowd is chanting, dun 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 dun, Max Verstappen, dun 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 dun. And that made me so happy. Like, Max was grinning from ear to ear. He looked so pleased. It was the cutest. And thank God, by the way. Anyway, the results. Max got driver of the day and fully earned, I think. The dick in the box, I'm gonna say, is Lady Luck. Like, she just screwed over a lot of people today. I'm gonna top it with some Parmigiano Romano for the region. Rookie watch, I just wanted to point out, I think obviously the most impressive rookies have been Kimi and Isaac. However, Kimi actually definitely has a better car than Isaac. How he would be doing in a worse car, I don't know. Probably still pretty good, but like, we don't know. Isaac, however, definitely has the much worse car and is consistently fighting for top 10 positions. And I just think that's so impressive. Kudos to him. Snaps, claps, cheers, whatever we do, like, just like, I want Isaac knowledge. Also, he's so good at a TikTok mouthing thing. What are they called? TikTok voiceovers, TikTok skits, whatever, where he's like doing the voice when another audio plays. He's so good at it. The results are as follows. Max, Lando, Oscar, Lewis, Alex, Charles, George Russell, Carlos Sainz, Isaac Hadjar, Yuki Tsunoda, Fernando Alonso, poor Fernando, he barely missed out for the top 10. Nico, Pierre, Liam, Lance, Franco, Ollie, Gabriel, and Kimi and Esteban both DNF'd. The driver standings are as follows. Oscar Piastri with 146, Lando with 133, Max with 124, George with 99, Charles with 61, Lewis with 53, Kimi with 48, Alex with 40, Esteban with 14, and Stroll still there with 14. And I would like to point out that Oscar, Lando, and Max are like 22 points between the three of them. So they're very, very close. And I would also like to point out that Fernando has not scored any points this year. And my heart breaks for him. Constructor standings are McLaren with 279, Mercedes with 147, Red Bull with 131, Ferrari with 114, Williams with 51, Haas with 20, Aston with 14, Racing Bulls with 10, Alpine with 7, and Kick Sauber with 6. And that's it for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. And this is my pasta again. And my little, wow, what a image. Anyway, this was the first of a triple header, so we're headed to Monaco next. If anyone has any ideas what to cook for Monaco, hit me up. I do not know what to make. But until then, make sure you follow, subscribe, share with any potential boxes, and follow along on social at BoxBoxF1 to keep up in between races. And until Monaco next week, box.